TwitchCon. TwitchCon was a lot of fun, but the whole point of this video isn't to be saying, oh, look at me, I was able to go and you weren't. This video is for people who think they want to go but aren't even sure if they actually want to go or not. So I'm hoping that some of my information I can give to you will be useful and beneficial. So this is from a first-time goer's perspective. So for those that don't entirely know me that well, I am a Twitch streamer as well as a YouTuber, and I have been streaming for about a little over a year now. I am on the affiliate status, but on the lower spectrum of it. I am a smaller streamer. The time that I went to TwitchCon, I only had about 200 followers on Twitch. Every single type of person that has a Twitch account was there. So don't feel like you can or cannot go simply because of your status at all. Just because it's TwitchCon for streamers, it's not just for streamers. So I'm going to play this day by day within a 4-day segment simply because that's how it's broken up in my log. I wrote everything down on my phone because I was forgetting things already. There will be dogs every so often in this video, so either pay attention to them and listen to me or ignore them and just focus on what I'm trying to say. They have free access, so they're going to be coming in and out. There she is again. I think she has a sock in her mouth. Okay, starting off. So day one is just normal day one. We were able to pick up our badges the day before the entire event started. It was a Thursday that we were able to pick up our badges. Friday is when the actual convention began. So it was like 6 a.m. we woke up, packed the truck, loaded ourselves in our dead bodies, especially mine. I'm not exactly a morning person, so dragging my body into the truck, we got gas, and then we headed out. So the moment we got into San Diego, we went straight to the hotel, dropped the car off at the valet because the Westin that's in the Gaslamp district doesn't have any like self-parking, it's valet only. We dropped the car off there, got checked in, and then we walked I think it's like a mile and a quarter or something like that. We walked to the convention center and we got lost a little bit. Because COVID rules are still in effect there, we have to get these black wristbands that tell basically the staff members that we have been verified that we have been vaccinated or we have a negative test for COVID. We showed the staffing our cards saying that we're fully vaccinated. They gave us our bands, and then we stood in a very, very long line to get into the actual area where you pick up your badges. There was a couple different lines. There's a partner line, there's an affiliate line, and there's a basically everybody else community line. And so the partner line at B and C with us, they got basically a detour that allowed them to get to their badges a lot quicker because it's one of the perks of being partners. I think the vast majority of the people who were at TwitchCon were affiliates. The line for that was far longer. It was probably very even between community and affiliates. Like in actuality, there were far less partners than there were anything else, but that shows you just how much of a ratio there is between partners / communities and affiliates. The community had their sides and it kind of looped a little bit further out than affiliates. Affiliates got right there in the middle where it wasn't as long as community, but it wasn't as short as partner. Got up to the front, you show your ID and you tell them who your username is, they verify on their end, and then they hand you your badge. Basically, they take normal badges, blank ones, and then they throw them through a printer and they print your name on it, and then they hand it to you and you can pick between yellow, pink, and like a greenish blue for your lanyard part. So that lanyard part doesn't matter, but at the very bottom it's colored to indicate what your role is for Twitch. So if you're an exhibitor or a panelist, I believe it's like a white color. For affiliate it was pink, for community it was blue, for partner it was a dark purple, and for the vendors it was like almost a blackish dark purple. So after we went and got our badges done, there wasn't anything else we could do Twitch wise until the next day. So we basically went around and explored San Diego a little bit. We've only been there a couple of times. We're not from that area, so we just decided to wander. I desperately needed a haircut, and I'm like, you know, if I'm gonna be seeing people, I should probably get a haircut. So I did. Gaslamp is right next to the convention center, and Petco is right over there too. So everything was entirely walkable too. So you don't need a car to really get from point A to point B unless your like hotel is like super far away outside of Gaslamp or something. And then for the rest of the day, we literally just chilled and ate at the Union restaurant in Gaslamp also, and then we chilled in the hotel for the rest of the night. So on day 2 is where the real fun had begun. We started off early and we got a bagel and coffee. Now that we had our bands and we had our badges, we stood in a equally very long line. They weren't really opening up the convention center until like it felt like a little bit after 9 o'clock. Some of the presentations didn't even start until 9 o'clock. It ended up being fine. Like once the line started, like they had people flowing in like a dam releasing water. You could not have a backpack or anything really large for a bag size. You could have a very small bag, like a little small purse or a clutch or something like that. And as long as you didn't make the sensors beep on the way in, they really didn't check you. You go through the line and then you basically have to go into the exact same room that you went to pick up your badges, but you get detoured off to the side where they have you going through a different like queue line that weaves in and out, and then you can get into the actual convention area through this archway that connects building rooms to building rooms. And then once you enter, it's pretty cool actually. It's massive, it's got lots of things, it's got things hanging from the ceilings to indicate where things are. You have your LAN on the left hand side, you have your vendors starting up on the right as well as a loot cave on your right. Hog Lizard has a giant statue with steam coming out that you can take a picture in front of it. The U2's statue of Kappa that's fully golden, you can take a picture in front of too on the right hand side, and it just kind of continues on from there. There's just starting from there, there's just nothing but booths of different vendors that do different things. Like there was Xbox Game Pass on the right, Intel on the left, Modern Warfare that you could play on the left, there was Logitech on the right, there's anywhere from Streamlabs and Stream Elements and Elgato and Crowd Control and a lot of other in-between vendors that were there for you to talk to and get more information about, even get some freebies, some product information, even buy product right then and there. We basically just explored. It was just a little bit of exploration just to see exactly what it is. The Twitch Rivals Arena was at the far other end, and it basically took up the entire end cap of the entire convention hall, so that it was a big stadium area obviously for the whole competitions and everything. Class-wise, it was a bunch of networking. So I did as much networking as I could. So the first networking class that I went to was a gaming to non-gaming network, and it was for partners and affiliates only. So what it was is that we got a little sticker indicating if we were a gaming streamer or a non-gaming streamer, and we just had the opportunity to talk to and network with people who may have been outside of our normal ring of influence. And so that was really cool. I met quite a few really cool people. And those people actually brought up a lot of topics of conversation that really doesn't influence or really affect the gaming side very much. And it was really interesting to hear not only their issues and what they come across, but ways that other non-gaming communities have combated that, and how the Twitch staff is going to respond to those issues. So hearing some of that was actually very promising, and we got to hear about some things that were upcoming and things to expect due to those issues that they were having. So for example, this one streamer is an ASMR streamer, and they were coming across the issue that their ASMR streaming is very different from a lot of other different genres of ASMR. So some people like whispering in the ear ASMR, and others do video game ASMR, and the others will do like sleep ASMR. It's like there's different ASMRs, there's different ways you can go about it, and so he was requesting some way to be able to categorize those ASMRs a little bit better, just like you can in video games. So in gaming, obviously, you have how many hundreds of games as options, as categories that you can search through that's more specific to what you're looking for. So what he was requesting was that in just chatting, you can have ASMR as an option, but then a secondary category so that you can specify exactly what it was that you were looking at and searching for, and not just have it through tags. And the staff actually really appreciated his comments about that, and have told us that there is actually a shell type infrastructure that's going to be put into place. They couldn't give an ETA on it, obviously, but it is something that's actively being worked on, where there's going to be these shells, in which case you can have different categories that specify more deeply what you are streaming about. but there was a lot more that they went into as far as what to expect in some of the other classes too. So this class was more to network than it was to ask questions to the staffing. So I'll tell you more about what we can expect in the future later on. So the next one was actually a pretty fun one. It was a partner and affiliate mentorship networking program where only partners and affiliates can go to. And it was basically a bunch of affiliates at a table. So we were all just sitting there, and we had a partner that was placed at our table. And we could just bombard them with questions about like who they are, how they got there, what their time frame is, what their income looked like, how they were able to go full time, like what their transition looked like, all those kind of questions that normally affiliates have about partnership and how to make streaming a full-time thing. We had a really cool partner at our table who plays video games with their feet, and I thought that was actually super cool. So go check him out. I'll put a link to his Twitch in the description below, so look for that. But it basically gave us a good idea of what to expect. So we had a couple of different partners that came to our tables, and from the most part that I could see, it took partners quite a few years to get to where they were today. A lot of them started streaming pre-COVID. So COVID brought in a lot of different streamers because, you know, it was something they can do that was isolated. Some people were immunocompromised and couldn't go back to work. Streaming was something that was influxed greatly because it was just the availability of it and the desire to do something more. So before that though, streaming platform was still competitive, don't get me wrong, but it didn't have the same numbers you see today. It still took them a few years to get to where they are. But the main gist of what they had to say was that you just need to find what makes you happy and be able to know how to market that. So if it's video games and it's a particular video game, you need to know how to find a community, you need to know how to network to other streamers, you need to know how to play the game well, and you need to be able to monetize on that. Sponsorships, it could be shoutouts, it could be any form. Basically, it's just a way for you to market your skills and what you can bring to the table that's different to everybody else. And one of the ways that they were telling us about this was a pretty good idea, that if you're trying to find some way to be different compared to somebody else, a way to think about it is to not be different in the game itself, but how to be different compared to the other streamers. One example that there is a streamer, and I'm so sorry, I cannot remember their name because I was just so entranced by what they were talking about. I didn't write it down. Their gameplay wasn't any different. In this FPS shooter, they didn't play the game any different than anybody else plays it. It was space related. And so what they had is that they had a green screen behind him and they made it look like his head was just floating around in space in the background. And so it's stuff like that, it's being unique enough like that, where you don't have to be different or unique in the gameplay, but as yourself. And then for the rest of the day after we were done with that, it was just exploration. It was still, because there were so many things to see and do, it was just explore and see what we could see. There was a couple of different vendors as far as like food goes. There was a couple of Auntie Anne's pretzel stands that we could get, you know, normal Auntie Anne pretzels and pepperoni, pizza, pretzel type things and some beverages. But there was a food court too over in the Artist Alley area that's over in the same zone as like the meet and greets. So there was a couple of different ways you can get food. There was like cafeteria food that was like more pre-made sandwiches and fruit and stuff like that. That was on the cheaper side for those that didn't want to spend a whole lot of money on it. And then there was like a medium ground where it was like almost Panda Express-y, orange chicken or tofu and white rice for a more middle ground price. And then there was more carnival food where it was like, I don't even know, it was like pizza and nachos and those kind of things for a medium price also. That was on another side. In this little food court, there was a couple different options as far as what you could eat in the convention, but obviously you're right outside of Gaslamp too, so you could just leave, go get a bite to eat, and come back in too. You could re-enter no problem anytime you wanted. If you bought a backpack or a big bag at the loot cave, or you got one from a different vendor or something, because there was like these backpack cameras for live streaming like on the go, and if you bought one of those and try to re-enter with it, you would more likely be denied unless you had like special permissions to do so. I don't know if you could have food and beverage with you. I was too scared to try. I had coffee in my hand each time and I kind of chugged it right before we entered because I was afraid they were going to tell me that I had to throw it away. And then after that, it was basically just going back out to Gaslamp for us. Pass, exploring more of San Diego, eating a lot, going and getting a drink at one of the brewery areas right there in Gaslamp, and then we headed back to the hotel because it was starting to get late, and we crashed again. And then for day 3, technically day 2 of the entire event, it was a lot of rinse and repeat. Basically, we started off at the crowd control booth because I really wanted to know more about it. It's stuff that where the viewers can kind of take control of your game a little bit. I also spent some time at the Tiltify area. I wanted to see about entering into some sort of charity event. I had a mission to find as many people from the Sanctum House as I could. There are apparently about 40,000 names that were on roughly 20 different boards of different shapes and sizes, and everything was at random, and the font for each of the names was as small as like 2 point to as big as what looked like maybe 32 point. So my goal is to represent the Sanctum House in November and just to get a little bit more exposure with how charity events run, and just to provide something during the holiday season. And so I went over to the charity side just to see exactly what all there was. There were quite a few booths. It looked like the vast majority of the booths were regarding hunger and food and trying to provide that for like mostly children. There were a couple for disabilities, mental health, a variety of other things, but it was mostly for food. And there's probably like about 20 different charity organizations that were there, which was pretty good. And I liked them. There was like, I think a couple for women in gaming and everything too that I was looking at and interested in, so I'm gonna have to dive more into some of those. I don't know, none of them really stuck out to me that much, but I didn't get to talk to everybody too. So if anyone has any ideas on like charity organizations that they're looking for people to stream and help support, let me know, because I love to learn more about them, because I'm actively looking. Okay, so the next one I'm going to be looking at my phone a little bit because I've got some notes on this one. So the next presentation that I went to was for Discovery on Twitch, was the name of it. So it was trying to teach streamers how to be more discoverable on Twitch. And as far as we're all knowing, the discoverability on Twitch, especially for smaller streamers, is pretty abysmal. And so they actually gave some pretty good tips and tricks as to how to become more discoverable, and I thought that was pretty neat. To update the schedule on the Twitch page. So on your profile page is the option to have a schedule posted. Now, consistency is everything with Twitch. The algorithm can only see so much and be able to extrapolate data from so much information that you give it. So by having your schedule updated accurately and consistently really helps the algorithm know exactly what it is you play and when you play it, because the more consistent you are, the better information it can take from you. It's also just being consistent in general. If you stream for, like, say, a couple of weeks non-stop, but then you stop streaming for a full week, then the algorithm doesn't have any updated information to base itself off of, and so you're basically starting from scratch again when you start back up. You have to stay consistent within a week's period of time, or else the data is basically lost. So you need, if you can stream for like even just 1 day a week, that really helps the algorithm rather than skipping a full week at a time or more. It also helps the algorithm to know when you are consistent on the games too, or what it is you stream. So for me, because I'm a variety streamer, it's all over the place. The algorithm has no idea what to expect from me or what to predict from me because I'm all over the place. I change all the time. It's never the same game on the same day. So by having a consistent schedule that you play the same games on the same days really helps it understand what to expect from you. And it also tags. So people assume that the tags don't have really any meaning at all, and it's kind of just up for grabs. According to many of the staff members that I talked to over the last couple of days, the tags are actually a little bit more important than you realize. If you put in your custom tags and the pre-populated tags that don't mean anything, like growl, red, and whatever like other words you can think of, those don't mean anything to the algorithm. But if you put the word like challenge in, or speed run, or ASMR, like, you know, like actual words that tags can recognize and algorithms can recognize as being a meaningful tag, they can actually use that information pretty well and be able to categorize you a little bit better. But you have to use words that the algorithm may be able to pick up. And then another tip they gave us is to be discoverable with other streamers, and that means networking. Basically finding communities in which you and other streamers can kind of get together, and the more those other streamers promote your work, the more the algorithm will be able to help you understand that, okay, these two streamers do the exact same thing. They do game A and they do game B. They do the same times and everything. So if these viewers like streamer A, they're also gonna like streamer B too. So those viewers will be recommended you as well as their original streamer that they go to, because they see that we do the same thing. So another presentation that I went to was called Meaningful Connections with Viewers. And so what this meant was trying to get the viewers to have more of a connection with you and how to get them to be more engaged in your viewership and your stream itself. One of the tools that they really did highlight was a new thing called guest stars. And essentially it's almost like Zoom for stream. What it is that you can have people call into you, so like other streamers or even viewers, if you allow it, transition your stream into a multi-face layer. And so that way you can see your guests in your stream and basically have them on as a guest star. It's got a lot of potential for having other streamers be able to join in on your stream. Another thing that they highlighted too was the highlights. So I know some of you probably have seen it already, but there's now the highlights ability where you can have different types of viewers be highlighted on your chat, and that's something that only you and your moderators can see. It shows you first time chatters, it shows you suspicious chatters, it shows you VIPs and stuff like that. Your moderators are all highlighted in different colors, so it's a quick and easy, like, oh, I see that color, let me get to that, or let me take a better look at that, or whatever it is you need to do. So there is that, but what else is to come is actually pretty exciting. There's also going to be these first time chatter prompt questions that I think would be pretty neat. And so this is something that's coming up. It's basically when you, as a first time chatter in someone's stream, and you click that chat box so you can start typing, what will happen is a little question will pop up right above it saying, what's your favorite Pokemon? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite season? Or whatever you want your question to be that's personalized to you and your community and what you want to represent. It gives them a prompt so that they have something to say. So if they want to just say hello, they can. If they want to ask a question, they can, but it gives them a prompt and something to respond to as a way of engaging with the streamer a little bit better. So it's completely optional if they want to even answer the question or not, but it is there if they want to. Another one is really good for people like me who have a really hard time with self-promotion. So there is a prompt that will be available for you as a streamer alone to see. And it's basically a reminder saying, hey, don't forget to self-promote yourself. Don't forget to ask people in your chat, hey, don't forget to like and follow this. Or like, don't forget to follow me if you're having a good time. It's that self-promotion stuff. Also, if you're having a good time with this video. It allows you to have the ability to be prompted at the correct moments in time so you don't under-promote yourself and you don't over-promote yourself, because people like me, not only do we forget, but we don't know if it's the right time to do so. Has there been enough time? Is there enough people in here to promote it? Like all those different things. This prompt will figure all that out for you and will throw up the prompt for you and say, hey, now's a good time to give a promotion to yourself and ask people to follow you. So after that, we checked out the Twitch Rivals Arena, and that was really cool. It was a lot bigger on the inside than I thought it was going to be. It was also a lot more lights in your face than I thought there was going to be. So there is a little bit of a queue sometimes to get in there depending on where they are in their gameplay and when the setup and everything. Typically after a game is completed, there's a whole mass of people that will leave and allow people in queue to try to take a seat before the next match starts. There was some really cool gameplay, and That was a lot of fun. And then after that, it was basically just more exploration, talking to more vendors, talking to other different booths and seeing what things were about and just getting pictures and stuff like that. We saw a couple of different streamers that were on the pretty high side, which was really, really cool. But I got to see some people like Valkyrie. I saw her. She was really, really cool. After that, later in the evening, so after we grabbed some food again, we went to the Petco park for the after party. That was available to everybody as long as you had a little music symbol on your badge saying that you paid for the party. There was a partner party that was on Thursday, but obviously unless you're a partner you don't get access to that. It was $30 to be able to enter, so it was $30 on top of your normal TwitchCon tickets. But it was really cool. So they had a couple of different stalls there for food and drinks. The beer was mostly things like Modelo, and it was $16 for a 24 ounce. It was a bigger size, but it was also $16, so just be wary of that. There is no food and beverage allowed inside. Obviously, you could not bring large backpacks or anything. You could bring very, very small things, but nothing big at all. No masks were required because the whole thing was outside, so that was nice at least. In the convention, masks were required, and your badges must be worn and your wristbands must be worn at all times. We got there a little bit late because we're like, you know, there's just going to be a bunch of setup and stuff anyway, so we don't need to be there for the full thing. So we got there once Meet Me at the Isle was playing, and that was really cool. They were a really good, well done, all-female band, and they did an awesome job. Kim Petras was after that. I'd never heard of her before, and she's basically like a Katy Perry on a very non-family friendly steroids. Like, she goes all out on her explicitity, and it was awesome. Actually, she did a fantastic job. It was hilarious. We also had a DJ mixer that was playing there that did a fantastic job too. In between sets, she did amazing. And then we also had, of course, Megan Thee Stallion was the frontliner of the entire thing, and she did awesome. She brought up quite a few different audience members on stage to do, like, to help her with the dancing, basically, for some little aspects. She did it 3 different times. The first time there was a dude up there that kept trying to grab at her and had to be removed from the stage by backup dancers. But the main highlight, as you probably are all very well aware of, is that Master Chief was brought up. So someone cosplayed as Master Chief very, very well. They were brought up on stage and they were basically twerked on by Megan Thee Stallion, and it was the funniest shit ever. It was definitely the highlight of that entire thing. It was so great. As all things must end, so I think 30 minutes early even. I think it's supposed to end at 11, but lights started turning on and music turned off about 10:30. So it was a little bit early, but it was what it was. We went back to the hotel and we crashed. So day 4, technically the last day of the TwitchCon convention, so day 3 for that, so it was a Sunday now. We basically got up, same thing. We got up a little bit later because I really, really wanted to sleep after being up a little bit later, but we basically rushed over to the convention so we didn't miss anything on the last day. We talked to more of the vendors that I wanted to talk to just as a last minute thing, like Stream Elements and Stream Labs. After we were done with that, it was about noon, and it was the Geoguesser Championship. So when I saw that there was a Geoguesser Championship, I figured, okay, we'll be sitting in an auditorium, we'll be watching people do this competition because it's a championship. I'm assuming that the people playing are going to be really good. I am not. When I got in, I quickly realized that the audience was they were the players. We were the ones in the championship. I'm like, okay. So I joined in anyways. I ended up getting 83rd place out of 130 players. So I mean, I didn't do last place, but I was not even top 50. And then the last networking thing that I went to was a Twitch leadership and affiliate networking, and that was for affiliates only. And basically it was Twitch staff that was able to answer any of the Twitch affiliates questions. And this was very, very helpful to hear. So there were a lot of people that had a lot of questions, and I wish we had more time in these lectures. It was basically people with all these concerns, anywhere from bot follows and hate raids, to advertisements, to monetization, to discovery, to accessibility, to Twitch support contact. It was a whole variety of different questions that people had. A lot of their responses boiled down to some of the same information that they had given at the other presentations. So some of these answers I already knew were coming and I had already heard of, because some of these were like a lot of them were about discoverability. And so like the things I just mentioned to you earlier today that were about like your tags and your schedule and being consistent, that was kind of what it boiled down to a lot for them. But overall, they did recognize that there were a lot of things that needed to be improved on with Twitch and that they're not anywhere close to being done. From my feelings, that the Twitch staff really does care about Twitch. It's the executives, the people with the overall checkbook in their hands that have not as much care as to what happens. They're in it for the money. But the Twitch staffing, like the people who are in charge of customer service, the people who are doing the coding in the background, the people who are doing the marketing and everything and trying to figure out how to make experiences better for streamers and viewers, they legitimately care about what's going on. That's where they're blocked, and they are heavily blocked, it feels like. So they're working as best they can within their limited box of influence, and it feels like they are trying their best, and they recognize that there are a lot of problems, and they're chipping away as best as they can at each of those problems individually while still trying to come up with things to be innovative and helpful, and trying to do all these testings on different aspects and nuances and modules that will hopefully make our lives better. But that ended up being the majority of what the Twitch staff 2 affiliates talk was about. And after that, it was practically 5:30, and the convention closed at 6 o'clock every day. Basically time to wrap it up. After that, we went out, we got another bite to eat for the last time, and then we packed it in for the night and headed out early the next morning back for home. And then I unpacked everything. In a very wide nutshell, I had a great time at TwitchCon. I met a lot of really cool people. If you are someone who is looking to go but not quite sure, I would probably still go if you have the ability to take the time off and spend the money, because it was expensive. The tickets were expensive, the hotel's expensive, the food is expensive. Did I mention $16 for a beer? Everything is expensive. All the merchandise is expensive. There's a bunch of freebies. You can do this cheaply by bringing your own lunch, by staying maybe at an Airbnb or a relative's house if you have the ability to. Not only to mention, like, those that had to come from further away that couldn't drive, because not only is gas expensive, but flight tickets are just as such. We booked all this out back in February. We had everything, the hotel and our tickets, done in February this year, and it was still a lot of money, because it is definitely an experience to go to at least once. There was another streamer that you probably saw that broke her back when she jumped into the foam pit, and security to get into the event itself was very, very lax. There was a lot of concerns about the lack of bag checks regardless of the beeping sensors going off. People were going around the sensors when they shouldn't have been anyways. There was a lot of like safety that was going unchecked that was a little bit concerning. Other than the streamer in the foam pit, there wasn't really any security issues that I was at least made aware of or that I saw. There are artists there also that had a whole artist alley. You have the meet and greets if there's bigger streamers that you want to see. The app for TwitchCon is pretty nice and easy to use, and it shows you all the classes and their times and locations and what to expect and stuff like that. There is a lot to do. There's a lot to see. As far as the other people I met, where every single person was super, super nice. Like, even like people that I was hearing from the meet and greets, everyone was super, super kind and polite and courteous. There's a lot of people that are just chit-chatting and shooting the shit with other people in line and stuff, because you're in lines quite often for different various things. Getting to know your fellow streamers and handing out business cards and stickers was very, very helpful. If you go there with the intention of marketing, I definitely recommend that you bring something to hand out to people, whether that be stickers with your name on it or business cards. So it's good that you go into it with what it is you want to have prioritized and what you want to take out of it, so that you can prepare yourself ahead of time. I also found like the shirts were helpful. Like people who wore their shirts with their logos and stuff was really helpful to see and identify who they were, because the cards that you have, the badges that you have to wear, are about this big, but they're not the biggest things in the world and not the easiest things to read, especially if your name is a little bit on the longer side. The font is going to be smaller, so having some way to identify yourself and make yourself known to others is very, very helpful. If you have any questions about TwitchCon or how to prepare or how to expect different varying scenarios, feel free to let me know, and if I don't know the answer, I can definitely direct you to someone who will and who's very willing and open to giving those kind of answers. I appreciate you sticking with me and watching this pretty long video now. I hope some of this was helpful to you, and I hope that the shaking of my washing machine wasn't too bad on camera. So I hope you have a wonderful day. If you like this, please don't forget to like and subscribe this so that I know that it was helpful to you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to catch you in the next video. Thank you.